Hello? Hello? Look, who is this?
Please stop. Oh, God.
What do you want? Why are you doing this?
Help me, Billy! I know you're doing this, Billy! Your answer is Billy!
Who are you? For God's sake, what are you doing?
I know what you did, Billy! Filthy Billy! 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 Billy!
Stop this! Oh, Jesus Christ.
This is the emergency podcast system. This is not a test. Movies are bombing all over the country. They are posing as movies you already know. They may already be in your theaters, your neighbor's home, or even your own. Do not panic. Specialists have been dispatched. They will help you identify these pretenders and defend you against this invasion of the remake. Please stand by for further instructions. Welcome to the Invasion of the Remake podcast. I am your host, traveling back in time, Jason Bishop. And with me today, as always, is Sam Stepanenko.
The one who hates Christmas.
This won't help. And Trish Coughlin with their boisterous Christmas laugh.
Yes, he's a mean one. Sam the Grinch.
And this week, we're doing it again. We're going back in time. We're doing Black Christmas from 1974, but this time, we're going to be talking about the 2019 remake of the same name. We've already done the 2006, I want to say.
Yes.
I think you're right, yes.
That was in episode 66, if you want to go back and check
66.
that out. 66. So we've been doing this so long, they made another remake. They probably shouldn't have.
Oh, God, no.
Oh, see, this is interesting.
But is it a remake? This is the whole thing.
And
Again, my
there's-
question, is it a remake?
There's yes, but there's not as much in common as the previous one.
Yeah, no.
No, for sure. And I think this conversation, I don't know if we need to go in depth with the 74 again, because we have talked about it quite a bit in our previous episode, but things have happened since then, more things, anniversaries and all that stuff, so we'll try to throw a few more things in from the 74 that we didn't talk about before, but we'll mainly talk about the 2019 Blumhouse movie, and it does beg the question, how much is too much and how much is not enough? Like, when I think about horror in general, and I think about like Terrifier 2, where I think that movie is too much. Like, it's enough, there's so much going on, they linger on the horror so much it turns you off as a viewer. I think you can agree with me.
I absolutely agree with you, and that's a good example of where they tried to cram more into the movie than needed to be there.
Yeah. Now, I think there's also the opposite problem where you can peel back so much that suddenly you've lost your story.
Well,
and I do feel like maybe the 2019 did that.
Well, I think that the problem with 2019 is it didn't know what its story was.
Oh, it had an agenda getting out of the gate, and it didn't give a flying fuck about its story.
Exactly. Well, it's exactly. It was about the agenda, not about the story.
And we talk about horror having, at its best when it has something to say. But it's usually best when it's balanced out with the story that makes fucking sense.
Yes. And if you had some characters you actually fucking liked.
Right?
Yeah. See, I did like the lead actress and kind of the, her best friend who's like on a quest actress. I did like her. She's fun, but she's a ride or die. I like that about her. I guess it was sort of what made me wonder about this movie, and I don't know how far we're going to go in here, because I'm going to be dropping something early that falls in late in order to make a point.
It's fine.
where it's
If you watch the trailer, this whole movie's freaking spoiled for you already.
yeah.
Whoever cut that trailer needs to be shot.
Yeah. I guess the whole thing is you don't need a black magic zombie story to justify anything, really. I mean, it's to have a big fight, but the worst part is I'm watching this and I'm like, yeah, there are people that can be like this and not need a zombie.
I totally agree. I think that if you
and that's scarier. So maybe were they making it zombie so it seems less terrifying?
I don't know because I mean, male toxicity is easy enough to find.
Oh God,
they didn't need the black goo zombie shit.
You didn't.
But you know what the black goo was? It's a PG-13 movie, so they can't show that much blood. So they went with the black goo, and the black goo literally is the embodiment of toxic masculinity.
Yes.
That's what it says when I was doing some of my research on this. I'm like, but my God, this director, who hurt you?
Well, this is a hard watch for me for many reasons.
I know, and I get that, man. And when I was watching it, I'm like, oh boy, I'm going to be. I was really actually interested in how Trish felt about this one. I mean, about the only thing I liked about this movie was the date rape song.
It was good.
Scene, I really liked the opening scene.
Yeah, the opening scene was fine with the icicle and the
and the
well,
way
it's like that quiz. I'm like going, you found a body. It's in a room and there's a puddle of water and you can't find the stabbing. Somebody's been stabbed and how did they die? And that's the riddle.
Yeah,
They were stabbed with an icicle.
Yeah, but yeah, like the scene with her walking and then getting her keys out and just the fear that all women have of having an unknown male presence walking behind them. It was powerful.
Yeah,
Yes.
and as somebody who's worked on a campus for many, many years, I mean, this was an ongoing thing. That's why we have campus security, and that's why they have
Safe walk programs.
Absolutely. And it is an ongoing problem, especially with youth who don't know limits and barriers. And date rape is a real thing. And all of these are horrors in the real world. Now, I think they went way overboard on the messaging of this movie.
Absolutely.
It takes you no time at all to go, oh yeah, he's a bad guy. You know, you could just go finger.
Ultimately,
To be fair, it's Carrie Elwes, and when it's 50-50, he's either totally evil or totally good. There's no middle Carrie Elwes role out there.
Sure enough, and I think he maybe showed up for a day or two.
Exactly. Exactly. So, honestly, part of that is casting.
That's definitely part of the problem, but I mean, the bad guy is almost every male you meet in this movie, except for two of them. At least one of them stands up for the guys a little bit, like going, not everybody's like that.
Well,
and I get where somebody who's been hurt and damaged from an experience of date rape on a campus and still has history and still has to face the person regularly that did this.
The major portion of this too is a lot of universities and campuses. They don't want to prosecute using the justice system. They want to handle it themselves. And that's been a terrifyingly awful thing.
Yeah, because it paints the institution in a bad light.
That's why nothing ever gets fucking done. Here's also the analysis of it. And I get it. It is not all men. Trust me. I get this. It's just so many. You're kind of like, if I gave you a parachute and the chances of it opening are the same percentage of women who have never been sexually harassed, catcalled, raped, touched without consent. That's the percentage of probability it will actually open. Will you use that parachute? No, because there's a good chance that fucker ain't going to open. So it's not so much, we do get that it's normal. It's just so many. Mm-hmm. If there were that many shark attacks, there'd be no more sharks. Just saying.
Now, I knew this was going to fire you off for sure. From your standpoint watching this movie, was the message heavy-handed?
It was heavy-handed, yes. I will agree with that.
Slapping it across the face until you bleed heavy-handed?
No, and what I said is honestly, what would be great is I really wanted to not have a zombie thing. I kind of wanted it to be these frats who are just deciding they're going to get vengeance on these several sorority houses. That's just as evil and terrifying.
Yeah, like a Skull and Bones type of scenario, right?
That's all they needed.
That's all they needed.
Exactly.
That's all. And
I mean, I think they still needed to peel back on the message, or at least have characterization to the point where you were on their side and you feel for them. I didn't feel any of that. I was annoyed, and I almost feel like Imogen Poots was just as much as the bad guy as Carrie Elwes was.
And I have to agree. Like at first, I did like her character and her best friend.
Initially, sure.
Yeah.
In fact, I still like the best friend.
Yeah.
The best friend was fun. I like it when she brings them back. They decide not to go with the cops. Where did it turn for you for Imogen Poots?
Actually, honestly, right after the date rape song, her attitude started to change. Mm-hmm. She became less likable somehow. And it's hard to say exactly what it was about her that's changed for me. But I think the fact that she became combative with her friend, she didn't want to listen to anybody. Mm-hmm. Like she put herself into peril through her own ignorance.
Well, it's a weird thing. And I think it's a direction and a writing problem.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. It's not her performance that was the problem.
Yeah. She is combative because there's a whole part of it too where it's like you have to be the one to say something, and when somebody pushes you and says you have to, that's also not great, you know? So that's why she was kind of being combative with her friend, but it just also felt she put a target on her back because they were getting all those messages.
Yeah.
She's also coming from a place of fear where she's like, oh crap, what did I do now?
Yeah. Well, and actually, it wasn't after the performance. It was after the video of the performance dropped.
Yes.
That's where it was.
When they're doing the dinner, the orphans dinner.
Well, I was kind of wondering early on, even earlier than the song, because she's already got this petition against the teacher because they're not teaching enough female literature in the class. Granted, that opening scene with Carrie Elwes was quite good, of his quote and saying, hey, this actually came from a female writer. And it's not enough to dissuade you from thinking Carrie Elwes is going to be the bad guy, but that was maybe some not so bad writing in that regard. But yeah, right away you feel like she's got an agenda somewhere, and it just builds and builds and builds and builds.
Yeah,
well, it would have worked better if she'd known that was Camille Paglia, a little bit out of context. But I would have preferred if she'd said, "Why aren't we doing Mary Shelley? Why aren't we doing the Bronte sisters? Those are really classics."
Yeah,
but they're
they're
just not part of that. Yeah, and they didn't do that, and I think that's part of the problem. It's right there.
Well,
Jane Eyre.
Yeah, I think that part of the problem with the whole story is, and we talked about the agenda. I mean, it's very clearly a feminist film.
It was very much set out on purpose to be that.
And it's the same problem I had with the Barbie film. It's feminism without resolution. It goes so far in the opposite direction, so that there's no balance. And I think, it negates equality. Mm-hmm. And that's what this film felt like it was doing. Even with the professor, they're trying to get him fired instead of trying to get the curriculum changed.
Yeah.
And that's what they should be petitioning for. Is, no, you know what? He's a male teacher and he has every right to teach. He's earned that right to teach. He went to school to earn the right. Mm-hmm. But they do have the right to say, you know what? We'd like you to teach a more balanced curriculum.
You have to change the curriculum.
Yeah.
You
not
have
the
to
person.
change it.
Yeah, it's an education problem.
Right. And that's really hits the point of the whole film on the head, or nail on the head, however you want to say it, is there's no balance at all.
They have half-hearted attempts.
Yeah.
Where you have one character who is mainly hanging out with the girls all the time, and he blows up, and he kind of speaks for me. I'm like, oh, thank God somebody said that. You know, it's like, not all men are like that.
I know.
And it's a good rant. And it's about the only thing that we have to hang on to as a male viewer, but this movie was not made for us at all.
No, but it does get to a frustration where he's ranting, yes, it isn't all men, but what are you doing? Like, when there's men like this, they won't listen to us. So there's so many times where if men will not have an uncomfortable conversation that could help other women rather than...
Well, and again, that comes down to the balance of the film it becomes a defensive thing versus a partnership or an ally thing.
Yeah,
and I think that's...
they're not... Yeah, and there's men aren't being They're just kind of there. They're not truly being allies.
Yeah. And they even diminish that character later on by turning him into a zombie.
Yeah.
And then he has to say, well, that wasn't really me, which is a classic abusive male thing to say.
I thought you meant the boyfriend guy, because I thought he died.
He died, but the DJ guy.
Oh, the DJ guy, yes.
Yeah, he's the one who says not all men are like that. He's the one who actually has that speech. And then they completely undermine it by having him say those very words, that wasn't really me. And that's something that I know abusive, toxic men say after they've said something cruel, they've struck a woman.
Oh, yeah,
look
what you made me do.
Or
that wasn't really me.
Exactly, right? So it completely undoes that character again. The first opening scene was so beautifully and subtly done. And I'm like, okay, this could be good. Right? And then that beautiful scene with the snow angel.
Oh,
I love
that was so
that
good.
was a good shot. Like every now and again, I'm like going, okay, this person makes some good choices, but why is the film quality so shitty? Why is the lighting so shitty?
Yeah.
And then you get those really elegant shots. And you're like, man.
It's like two different people made the film.
It really is sometimes. Anyway, yeah, we're fired up. We got more to do. I'm going to run the trailer for the original film from 74. We're going to talk a little bit about that before we get back to the 2019. And we'll be right back.
Silent night, evil night. Olivia Hussey. Keir Delay. Margot Kidder. John Saxon. If this movie doesn't make your skin crawl, it's on too tight. Silent Night, Evil Night, rated R.
That was a trailer for Black Christmas from 1974, directed by Canadian, well, not really, he wasn't born in Canada, but very famous Canadian director Bob Clark. He's responsible for many of Canada's biggest film hits.
Yeah.
Porky's stood as the biggest box office for him for many, many years.
Yeah, until Men with Brooms came out.
Sorry?
Until Men with Brooms came out.
That's correct, yeah, until the 2000s. So, quite the record. We talked about Black Christmas 74 in episode 66, so we'll skip that connection on everything.
Yes, everybody in this movie was in that episode.
Yeah. We've done this.
If you've not heard of Black Christmas, you live under a rock, but you may have also seen it on television as Silent Night, Evil Night.
Yeah.
And not to be confused with Silent Night, Deadly Night, or Silent Night, Bloody Night. Which we almost did.
So many ones. You know, can I tell you what happened this run through? And I know this happens every time. Andrea Martin is in this film, and the whole time I'm like, I hope she doesn't die. And then I'm so disappointed. Because I'm like, I like her so much. And I'm like, ooh, I hope she survives. And then she doesn't. Because I forget every time.
Yes. So we've got a college level movie here with a bunch of people in their mid-20s or mid-30s, depending on the character.
Yeah.
We also talked about Bob Clark fairly recently in episode 382.
Loose Cannons.
That's right. If you want to keep it Christmassy, though, Bob Clark, what's his most famous movie? Trish.
A Christmas Story?
That's the one. Now we've talked about more Christmas stuff.
There you
go. Roy Moore wrote this, and he's written some other Canadian stuff. Not a whole lot of material, but he wrote She Cried Murder and another movie called Riel, based on Louis Riel. Yeah. This stars Olivia Hussey as Jess, and we talked about her in episode 342.
Death on the Nile.
That's right. Keir Dulia was Peter, and he was one of the guys who was in his 30s playing college level.
I know, right?
But Bob Clark, he loved 2001 Space Odyssey, and you can also catch him in the sequel, 2010, the year we made contact. Margot Kidder is Barb, and we talked about her in episode 203.
Amityville Horror.
Yeah. And John Saxon is Lieutenant Ken Fuller, who actually wound up replacing poor Edmund O'Brien, who was originally cast, but he had Alzheimer's, and it what hadn't been fully disclosed at that point. They didn't know. They just couldn't move forward with him, which was a really tough day for whoever had to tell him when he flew in to do the role. But John Saxon came in at the last minute, and he originally was the first choice. And if that didn't happen, we wouldn't have Black Christmas at all. It probably would have been canceled.
Yeah, you know what? John Saxon, I fell in love with him all over again in that, because he's getting stuff done in that movie. He's doing stuff. He's making moves.
Yeah, and no stranger to horror. We talked about him in episode 112.
Nightmare on Elm Street.
And again in 362.
Blood Beach.
Oh, John.
Marion Waldman is Mrs. Mack. She doesn't have a big resume, but boy, I love her character.
Oh my God. I rewatching this, I was like, you know what? If I'm going to be her, I'm just going to drink in the open. I'm not hiding shit.
You could also catch her in Deranged and her final film, Phobia, A Descent into Terror. Andrea Martin is Phil, and we talked about her a little bit in Cannibal Girls, which was, we didn't actually do a full episode on that. That was our Ivan Reitman special where we all watched it in episode 331.
Yes, I messaged Jada. I'm like, have I lost my mind? I swear we did Cannibal Girls. And then he reminded me that we did it as a Reitman special.
I didn't remember until you texted me this morning, last night. I'm going, what the fuck? Why can't I find this?
Yeah. Well,
I was doing the same thing, and then
it's one of those things
this morning.
We know, and that's the thing. We do these specials, and we know we've talked about people, but because the special is so dense with other stuff, it's not standalone. We can't find it.
Yeah, so I just do lots of material. James Edmond is Mr. Harrison, and he was in Devil Girl from Mars.
Okay,
just leave that sit there. Doug McGrath is Sergeant Nash. Boy, he was in some stuff. Pale Rider, Ghosts of Mars.
Oh, Ghosts of Mars. It's a dumb movie, but I like it.
Yeah. Art Hindle was Chris Hayden. We talked about him in episode 286.
Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Yeah. Lynn Griffin is Claire Harrison, and she was in another Canadian horror movie called Curtains.
I've heard of that one. Do want to watch it.
I keep meaning to do it. I should have watched it for 31 days. And you can catch her most recently in Thanksgiving.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Still working.
Still working. Michael Rapport is Patrick. He was in Hard Bodies and Miracle Beach, so he liked his Skinamax type of...
Which is odd because I kept misreading it as Michael Rappaport.
Me too.
Yeah, me too. I did too. I had literally had to rewrite it. Leslie Carlson is Graham, and he was in Videodrome in episode 101.
The Fly.
That's right.
Nice.
Martha Gibson is Mrs. Quaife, and she was in Murder by Phone, and Nick Mancuso is one of the voices for Billy, which is comprised of 3 voices. Another one was Bob Hall, and he's not sure on one of the commentaries he did for this movie. He thinks the 3rd voice was Anne Sweeney. Maybe.
Yeah, because there was a female voice in there at some points.
Yeah, and we've talked about that before, where the voice in the 74 is almost telling Billy's backstory, and we never see Billy outside of his eyes, and it's mostly from his perspective pre-Halloween.
Yep.
This is one of the early slashers, not the first. I would consider like Psycho or
Peeping Tom
the first in that regard. In fact, Peeping Tom probably being the first using the POV.
Yeah.
Yes.
This might be the second, though.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you have that ending that's so nondescript. And I kept thinking again, they left her just sleeping in the bed in the house. Or like, she's just been through a traumatic event and you're just going to leave her there to wake up by herself.
Her estranged boyfriend gets fingered for the murder, and
everybody, and the audience knows it's not him.
Yeah. I guess that's the question. I don't know if we talked about this in 66, but do you think she was killed past the credits? Do you think she survived?
I think she died because they didn't check the house.
Yeah. And what cop wouldn't check, like, if you've had multiple murders, why wouldn't be checking everywhere, including
The attic.
Because this hit my brain. I think it didn't in the first time we did this, where they're like, I guess he was making the calls after each murder. But they came from inside the house. So where in the house was he calling from? If it's her boyfriend. Like, that's a very key point.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely pulling from that babysitter man upstairs urban legend. But this was also based on the Wade and Bowden murders in Montreal, early 70s, and then his final victim. He murdered 3 women in Montreal, but his 4th was right here in Calgary when he was caught in 1971. And he got life sentences consecutively for each murder.
Nice. As it should be.
Yeah. But a little scary when I was starting to read that. I'm like, oh, did we mention that? Like,
No, we didn't.
I think we got a little shiver down my spine when I heard that his reign of terror ended in our city.
Right? Well, that brings me on to something that's kind of crazy as well. Do you remember the Polytechnique mass shooting?
Yeah.
That happened because it was an engineering student and it was women there and he went crazy. And I can't remember what year that was, but that was either before I started engineering or after, but it was
1989, I think?
Yeah, it was 3 years before I went in.
Well, in 1978, there was another famous set of murders in Chi Omega sorority in Florida. 2 women killed, 2 injured by a very famous serial killer who snuck into the sorority. Do you know who that was?
Oh, God, I should know who this is because I've heard of this.
Well, Florida? I'm inclined to go with Ted Bundy.
It was Ted Bundy.
Yeah, because that was one of his hunting grounds was Florida.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this also brought to me, I probably mentioned this in 66, at least in Edmonton, if there's more than 4 women, it was a local law. If there's more than 3 or 4 women living in a house, it was considered a brothel. So if you did we had no sororities, there were female frats.
Huh.
So yeah, if you're wondering about sexism, seen a lot of it.
That's wow. I didn't know about that one.
Yep.
Weird laws.
Weird laws.
Yeah. Yeah. The boys could be all like 10, 20 deep in a house, but we were whores if we were more than a few of us.
Well, interesting you say that because I think Bob Clark, when you watch this movie, he did a very good job at not objectifying the women in this movie.
Oh, for sure, yes.
There's no nudity.
There's some sexuality about them, but it's their choice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Margot Kidder's character especially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the one I was thinking of specifically, yeah.
Yeah, who insisted on drinking on set because she had to play drunk.
Yeah.
So she drank. But you're an actor.
Right? Just act drunk.
Well, she also had a history of substance abuse, so...
It may have started right here.
Yeah.
But it was, she was self-medicating for other disorders, so it was a whole thing. But yeah, no, she's one of those characters so boisterous. I kind of loved her.
Oh, for sure. I mean, how can you not love Margot Kidder? She's Lois Lane, and she's so over the top.
Yes.
But everybody feels real here.
Yeah.
Like they feel like fully formed characters making decisions, and there's agency here. Now, I know for a fact that the whole controversy about Elizabeth Hussey's character being pregnant and not wanting to keep the baby, and I'm all for the choice of it all, but there was no actual political agenda here.
Oh, no.
Based on what Elizabeth Hussey and Bob Clark have said in the past, they just needed to fill some time. But I mean, man, they picked something really good that has an underlying message.
And it still continues to be effective today.
Yeah.
And I think that's where this remake grabbed onto, is that misogynistic moment right there. And they grabbed onto that and went, that's our nugget, and we're going to run with that.
Yeah, her boyfriend was selfish and egotistical. I mean, things didn't go away with his piano recital, so he shatters the piano.
Again,
he wants to
and
keep
that's
the
not
baby.
his piano. Yeah. Because you don't take your own to university, so he just wrecked school property.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a great example of toxic masculinity, and and something that was filler in the original film has become the core
Focal
of the
point.
remake.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and like he's I want us to have a baby. I'm like, well, that's fine, sweetie. Are you getting up? Are you doing all this work? No, you want to have it and just have it around.
Yeah,
and not do any of the work.
She's got her own life plans. She says as much, and she's not ready.
No.
She may be ready one day, but she wasn't ready at that point.
Exactly.
And that's fine.
And that can make a huge difference in a person's life.
Yeah. I mean, she struggle with even telling him. I mean, at the end of the day, that is her choice. I mean, I think that was good of her to include him in that conversation.
And I like how she says this doesn't have to break us up. I mean, there's a way forward here. It's just not this time.
Yep. Yeah, she handled it in a mature adult manner, and he behaved like a child.
Yeah. You know, when I watch this, maybe just because I've watched this a couple of times now, but I don't know if it paints him as villainous as the movie wants you to think he's supposed to be, to make him the target and make other people think he's the target, even though there's enough to say proof for the cops to go, oh yeah, he can't be the guy.
Yeah.
There's more than enough. Specifically, the fact that the killing started before he even knew about the pregnancy, before he threw his temper tantrum.
And the phone thing, if it's coming from inside the house, he's got to be in the house, and he wasn't in the house.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure if we talked about this back then in the episode 66, but this is a failure of the police department as well. And maybe that kind of moved over into the remake as they're just not willing to listen.
It is.
At least not right away. And they've made up their mind of who it is without doing proper procedural investigation.
John Saxon actually just kind of, I like in the old movie where he takes control. He's like, you didn't think this was relevant? What's wrong with you?
Yes.
Like, he tells the guys, like, come on, you got to listen to this stuff. And in the remake where she goes to campus security and you're getting creepy messages all over there. This is honestly stuff that happens all the time where someone can be like, I will skin you alive. And they don't do anything because they're like, well, we don't know. Maybe he's just being over dramatic. Like they'll dismiss it out of pocket because people are anonymous on the internet, which is a thing. But I mean, you can't let them just say what they want to say when it's that violent.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I got a death threat once at work.
Right?
And I was going to report it. And a cop friend of mine, they're like, they're not going to do anything about it. Like, so what happens? Well, if they have to do something. Like, so basically, I actually have to get murdered.
You do. That's the whole thing.
That's not right.
When it comes to stuff like
cops
that.
only react instead of...
A woman gets beat up about 20 times. They just got to wait till she dies and then charge them with murder.
And that's a case of something needs to change there as well. But I didn't mind the fact that held true in the remake.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, if you listen to any true crime podcasts and stuff, you know, this stuff happens all the time.
It's the husband. I have one question, though. I don't know if it's because I missed it or because there's some of the stuff I couldn't see on the screen because my TV probably isn't big enough. I couldn't see some of the messages fully. When she's with the professor and he's about to let her into the house, she sees something that really spooks her, and I don't know what it is. I didn't see it.
It was a list of names from the sorority.
Oh, I knew it was the list of names, but then as he's opening the door, she really starts freaking out. And was there something else that happened there, or did I miss?
You know, I think that's the memory of what happened to her there.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think it was just that guttural reaction of the memory.
Yeah, you don't want to go back to those places.
Yeah.
You know what else I liked about, and I like this about both films, is all of the characters, not just the female characters, but all the characters look like real people.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll give that credit to the remake there as well, where everybody looks normal, dresses normal. It doesn't feel like they have like movie makeup. Yes, some of the girls are like stupidly pretty, but
that's
they don't
real
go.
Life, though.
But they don't go out of their way to accentuate that. About the only time where it's minorly exploitive is when they're dancing in their
the
Santa
Mean
Claus.
Girls Christmas costumes.
Yeah, the Mean Girl. That's a good reference because that is exactly what they were going for.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I could see, and I'm like, that's because I thought that's what the song they were doing was going to be, was the Mean Girls one. Jingle Bell Rock.
Yeah, I think you were supposed to.
Yeah. Yeah, it was definitely a cultural reference. Now, before I forget, did either of you happen to notice that the Latin for their sorority name kind of looked like puke spelled out?
I was wondering about
it. I mean, it wasn't a good choice because
oh, puke and meek.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For the boys, for their fraternity.
Puke and meek. Yeah, Delta Epsilon Kappa Deke.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was just one of those things that I found very distracting because they showed it quite a bit. I'm like, That just does not look right.
They could have gone with anything else.
Yes.
I know. There's a whole bunch of Greek alphabet out there. I've done a lot of math. There's a lot to deal with. You're fine.
I don't know if that was intentional or not. God, I hope it isn't.
I mean, yeah, I'm sure it wasn't, but I can't believe a set decorator wouldn't go ahead because that looks just too much like the words.
It's like those sign fails that they show you. Or this is like, what was it? You don't matter. Live, give up. Like it's supposed to be you matter, don't give up, but it's you don't matter.
Give up.
Give up.
Yeah, but yeah, no, I thought that it was just funny and quite a glaringly odd thing to be seeing.
Does make you wonder if maybe the set guy or girl, the set person, saw the script and like, you know what? Fuck this movie.
Maybe.
It's a job. I'm going to sneak something in.
Yeah.
It does feel like it, but I mean, even the DOP looked at that through a lens and go, "Ooh, that don't look right."
Too late to change it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, you could just left it as a shot.
Yeah. Now, there was some controversy with Jason Blum. This is a Blumhouse movie, the remake. And there was some online criticism about the fact that he had, up to this point, had no female directors that have worked for him.
That's a valid criticism.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, it happens. And he kind of went out in social media going, well, there aren't that many female directors. There's even less that want to do horror. Ugh. Okay. That's a bit cringe because we could probably name a few just off the top of our heads that are working right now that would love to do it.
There's so many. That's how most of them start. Dude, come on.
Yeah. So he went and found this one. Maybe should have kept going a little, waiting a little longer. She did want to do, initially she wanted to do I Spit on Your Grave, which also has a remake already.
Yeah.
And it does feel like she had a story in mind and she was going to shoehorn it into whatever was offered to her.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. There's some bits that had, I know what they were going for. Like I'm watching it and I know what the point was, but it just wasn't done as well as it could
I wish we would just had some character moments instead of all this. Okay, this is haunting her and stuff, but we're not seeing the characters interact. They don't feel like real people to me.
No.
And I mean, they look like real people, but there's no real interactions that makes you hang on to these characters and even like them.
Yeah.
That's exactly it. That's like I said,
Bob Clark was smart enough because he knew when to throw in some funny bits just to lighten the mood.
Well, yeah, and I mean that whole opening scene was about the camaraderie of these sisters. They are sorority sisters, right? And you need to see that camaraderie.
We needed to spend more time in the house, which we don't. We kind of immediately go to they're going to this party, which I feel is just a bit too soon.
Yeah, because we have barely understand what's going on with Imogen Poots' character. We don't really, like, it's been said, but we don't really get it. We've got girls coming and going. We haven't really been introduced to them yet. One of them's already been killed at the beginning of the movie, which is very similar to what happens in the original film, is one's going off to the holidays and doesn't make it very far.
No.
It's a pretty good scene, and you've got this killer's moving around at an impossible speed, which... You know, the smart viewer is going to realize more than one person.
I know, I went, this is Scream. It's more than one person.
Yeah, I just didn't realize how many more.
Yeah, well, I liked the idea that there was this lateral story happening at another sorority house that you find partway through.
Yeah.
So it would have been nice. And I think these are the other girls that boycotted the thing. So that was their trespass that they did against these men. So they were having their own lateral story. I wouldn't have mind seeing a bit of that, or like their camaraderie with that other sister sorority.
Yeah, some interaction.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that you've kind of hit the nail on the head is all of the dialogue. This movie fails the Bechdel test. Absolutely fails it. And
I'm not going to take that from you. Trish, does it pass or fail the Bechdel test?
I'm trying to think. There is... It's only briefly, you can kind of, if you want to shoehorn it as failing the Bechdel test, you have two characters. She has a conversation. She's missing her diva cup. That's not about a man. She's just trying to get her period caught.
Okay, so it doesn't quite fail it.
Okay.
But just barely.
Yeah, true.
I needed a female perspective on that one.
No, you do. And it's the worst part is, this is the horrifying part, is the Bechdel test is about women having a conversation that isn't about a man. But the most horrifying part is it's women talking about like what's happened to one because of a man. Like even when they do terrible things, they end up becoming the focus.
The focus of the conversation.
And that's awful. Like it should have been a bit more going on there.
Yeah. I feel like with that character, with the Riley character, maybe we needed a flashback. Maybe we just needed to set up a little bit more of that.
I wanted her to also, what we need to do is set up, like when she blows up at her friend, we needed to set up more of where she's like, I have tried and like nobody believed me and now all this crap's happening to me. Like as it happens so many times, I just want to forget about it.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing. Because when nothing happens, you're like, oh, fuck, I guess this is just life now.
But this whole movie just is missing the human element because it's so focused on its message that the characters get lost because of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you have zombies, which again, no need.
The Black Goose stuff. I mean, I kind of like that they were doing like the faceless blank statue faces and
Yeah, but we didn't need the goo.
But we
It was Dr.
we
Doom.
totally didn't need the goo. So when we first see the goo during the weird ceremony, I'm like, okay, I'm just hoping this is a ceremony thing and
Right?
not black
Me
magic
too.
bullshit.
Yeah.
And then it turns out to be black magic bullshit.
I know.
Say that one more time. I like the way you say it.
Black magic bullshit.
There we
Yes,
go.
thank you. Yeah, I thought it was like these guys just being all, oh, we have all this ritual that we must do, like, but it's stupid.
Yeah.
They're just doing it because,
They're frat bros.
yeah.
Right. And that would have worked better. And I think part of the problem too is the frat boy who is sort of your secondary villain to Carrie Elba's character. You don't know anything about him. He's just this guy he keeps showing up in the background and glares at Riley.
Oh, I thought he was the guy that raped her.
He is. But what else do you know about him? He doesn't have any real dialogue until that final scene.
Yeah.
Right?
Nope.
Like you have nothing to set up this character as a
Yeah,
bad
it took
guy.
me a while to figure out who he was.
Yeah.
I'll be honest.
We need interactions. We need those awkward moments to sell that trauma.
Or you also want him, I want him having conversations with the professor all the time. Like just meeting up all the time. Like ways to be like, yeah, that's kind of
I mean, that's not
screwy.
going to save this movie, but it will make it a little better, a little more palatable. Like, if you have more character moments and little less message, because the message is loud and freaking clear. You could tone it down again, and it would still come across just as strong.
Probably better.
Probably better.
Because you
Because you're not going to be pissed off about hearing it every 2 seconds.
Yeah, and feel like you got hit by a brick with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly it. And I think that the length of time it gets to Endgame takes a long time. You're getting this message, bang, message, bang, message, bang, message. Here's the hammer again, here's the hammer again, here's the hammer again. To no purpose. Like, it doesn't move the story along at all. I mean, you even get that moment there where she drops the video, which comes as a complete surprise to the audience, too, because there's no hint at all of it until she shows up after scenes that were completely unrelated. And I was like, okay, where did that come from? Right? I mean, powerful moment, but it gets lost in the mess.
And they message, she's talking about getting the creepy messages, and then she's talking to her sorority sisters and like, oh wait, you're getting those too? It's kind of like we could have dealt with that.
Yeah.
And not had some of the other stuff.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then
because
you could have had the group of them going to campus security being
that's
like
what should have happened.
Yes.
like what they did in the original movie, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Support each other.
Yeah. I mean, sure, you're not going to be able to get the fellatio area code joke anymore
No.
because it doesn't work. It did in the 70s. It doesn't work now, but
Which I didn't
you
understand.
could
but
still have had another joke. Yeah, it just
Yeah.
predates us.
predates us. I know it's just that little bit farther away.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it was a shot at how dumb that desk
Oh no, I
sergeant
know,
was.
but I was like the code. That's just a little bit before us. I just remember area codes as numbers.
Yeah, letter codes were gone by the time
Yeah.
I was around.
I only see them in old time movies. Calling Lincoln 4526.
Right? Yeah, it feels even weird in a 70s movie.
Yeah, I didn't realize it lasted that long.
Yeah.
Sergeant Nash, could I speak to you for a minute?
Yeah, sure, Lieutenant.
What's this?
Well, that's the number at the sorority house.
Fellatio?
Yeah, it's a new exchange. FE.
No exchange?
Yeah, Felicia. One of the girls that was in this afternoon gave it to me.
She gave it to you.
Yeah.
Nash, I don't think you could pick your nose without written instructions.
I know. Something dirty, ain't it?
Maybe it's just different parts of Canada because I don't remember that ever being here.
Well, in all fairness, in Alberta and British Columbia, populations probably didn't even we didn't even use area codes.
You know what? I mean, there are a lot of. They were trying to sell this movie as an American movie if it was Canadian.
Oh, yeah.
I just thought of that right now. It probably wasn't a Canadian thing at all.
Yeah. Maybe in
go.
Ontario. Maybe. But otherwise, yeah.
Yeah, because they were definitely trying to sell the location and
Oh, yeah. It's
everything
supposed to
as
be an American
city.
university and all
Yeah.
that.
So
That does make more sense now.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's sitting there
Solve that.
explaining DMs to this guy, direct messages. I'm like, dude, you're not that much older. You should be able to figure this out.
You work at a university, you know this stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, they modeled him directly off the Bumbling Death Sergeant from the original film.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes.
But they didn't have balance.
You needed a John Saxon.
They didn't have the John Saxon character. They did not have the engaged character.
I was wondering where the hell are the rest of the cops?
You know what? What it honestly also should have been is it should have been another professor who is kind of really tuned into it and being like, oh yeah, no, that professor's a dick. He's like, I could tell about 25,000 women authors we could do and black authors and all that, but the dick's not listening.
Yeah.
Like, it could have been someone like him.
Yeah, and maybe that's just it. The movie was so low budget they couldn't afford extras, so we had an empty police station, an empty school.
Yeah, because I mean, having a university.
They could have saved money on the budget by not having them out running around so much, though.
Yeah.
The original film takes place almost exclusively in two locations, police station and the sorority.
Yeah.
And a few outdoor scenes when they find the dead child.
And the conservatory.
Yeah. But yeah, they keep them very tight. This movie's just, she took a shotgun and went, boom, I've got all these places I can shoot, I'm going to use them all.
Yeah, which I mean, if you're kind of excited out the gate, we've seen this with new directors. They're like, I got to get everything in because I'm never going to get another chance. We've seen this time and again.
Well, I didn't think there were certainly locations. I don't know if they were necessary, but I don't know if she totally blew her wad there either.
No.
But I found that the sorority and the fraternity looked too much alike that I didn't know which building I was in at any given time.
You were right.
Yeah.
Because at the front of one, it seemed like they just put the signs up.
Yeah, I feel like they just changed the sign.
Yeah.
That's entirely possible.
Yeah.
For budget. But yeah, I think that if she had, if the director and the writers had gone back to basics and said, okay, well, let's keep this tight, keep it in the sorority house and other necessary key locations, then maybe we would have gotten more of that dialogue rather than a lot of this running back and forth between sets, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least make them look different so I know that we're not just running back to the same building.
And they had the library scene, which I was like expecting more because I'm like, when you have a library, there's always something happening in a library.
Right? Well, you watch the trailer, the bad guy in the cloak is in the background of every shot. They just CGI'd him into the trailer everywhere.
Oh, wow.
And it's not like that in the movie at all. All right, I'm going to run the trailer. Even though you can't hear those CG scenes,
No,
you should maybe go
you have
look
to
at.
imagine.
You have to imagine. Go watch the trailer if the audio's not enough.
But don't watch the movie.
Yeah, that's all you need. That's all you need. We'll be right back.
It's my privilege to teach you this semester. Enjoy your winter breaks and Merry Christmas.
What's up, ladies? Excited for tonight? It is our last day of our last fall semester of college ever.
Jingle bell, jingle bell, jingle bells swing and jingle bells ring.
Can you take a photo of all of us?
Of course.
Where's Helena?
She was pounding back a sodas earlier, but she looked really good.
Cheese.
We shouldn't have let her go back by herself. She's fine. Come on, live a little.
In the frosty air.
Helena hasn't gotten home yet. If I were missing, I'd want you to unleash the bloodhounds and track me down. She was at DKO last night.
Still creating problems, all right?
Hello? Hello? I'm worried that something bad happened.
It's winter break. Could just be a delay of some sort. Snow.
My friend is missing.
9 times out of 10, the girl's just with a boyfriend.
I will bring you to your knees. There's someone in the house.
What the?
This can't be real.
This school has 200 years of history. Many sacrifices have been made to keep our traditions alive.
You're all insane. I'm tired of hiding. I'm tired of running. Go, 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 go! Ho, 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 bitch. You messed with the wrong sisters.
That was a trailer for Black Christmas from 2019, written and directed by Sophia Takal, who did Deviltown and Always Shine. A couple movies I've never heard of. And she's done TV stuff here and there as well. And this was also written by April Wolf, who wrote something called Clawfoot. This stars Imogen Poots as Riley, and she did a great turn in Green Room, and we talked about her way back in episode 45.
Was it Fright Night?
That's the one.
I did it.
I missed that one entirely.
Off the top of my damn head.
That's right, because that's the almost the only connection
And
we've
Tristan
got.
wasn't even there for that episode.
No, I was there for Fright
She was
Night.
Fright Night.
I thought Valerie did Fright Night.
No, I think Valerie was with us for Fright Night, but I was still
maybe,
there.
yeah.
Yeah, we talked about Friday Night.
Yeah.
It's a good episode.
Because I remember it was, what's his face? Irish actor. He was hot, but
Colin Farrell.
that's it. But deadly, and I'm like, ooh, I didn't like him in that movie.
I love Friday Night. The remake.
Yeah.
And the original.
It's not bad.
Yeah, it's a good remake. Elise Shannon is Chris. She's actually one of the main cast in Leverage of Redemption, that television series.
Oh.
It's 2 or 3 seasons in now. Lily Donahue is Marty, and she's in Dr. Bird's Advice for Sad Poets.
Interesting.
I'm curious about that.
Yeah, I thought you'd like the title.
This feels like an animated show.
I mean, honestly, this was shot in New Zealand. They're mainly New Zealand actors, so they're going to be things
answers
you've
some questions.
never heard of.
That answers some questions.
It probably answers a lot of questions as to why the acting was so stiff.
Yeah.
They're covering up their accents.
They were upside down.
They did a fairly serviceable job covering up their accents, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Brittany O'Grady is Jess. She was in Above Suspicion. Caleb Eberhardt is Landon. He was in The Post and Judas and the Black Messiah.
Okay, I've heard of that one, but I've not seen it.
Okay. Carrie Elwes is Professor Gelson, and of course you remember him from The Princess Bride and Saw, but we talked about him in episode 118, possibly, briefly, maybe, which was our A Christmas Carol extravaganza, where we talked about a bazillion of Christmas carols, and he did a voice in that animated one.
Oh my God, that's a deep cut.
That high detail one.
Yeah.
It's Christmas. I have to mention
true.
the Christmas references.
Wow. Yeah, but that's deep.
I don't know if we even talked about that movie, to be honest. We may have mentioned it, but There's so many of them.
There's so many.
Oh, I know, right?
Yeah. Simon Mead is Nate. He's mainly known for television, Under the Vines and The Gone. Madeline Adams is Helena. She's done 5 seasons of Mystic, and she was also in Mortal Engines, which I think is people need to watch.
Yeah.
I mean, they got shitty reviews when it came on the theater, and when I finally got around to watching it, I'm like, this movie's fun as fuck.
And we had preview tickets to that, and neither of us wanted to go.
No, because the reviews were so bad.
Yeah.
And then I had merch and stuff for it that I got given, and then I finally watched it. I'm like, this movie rocks.
Well, I think it's one of those neither of you are attached to the book.
No.
So if you're not, it's one of those ones, if you're not attached to the book, it's actually really enjoyable.
Yeah, I loved it. Love that movie. So good.
It's a great roller coaster of a ride.
It does make me want to read the book, but that's a case of like watch the movie before you read the book, because you're not going to be disappointed.
If you can get the chance, I usually do that almost every time. I try and watch the movie before the book so that I'm not as angry.
Yeah.
And I'm not too attached.
Yeah,
it's
love
good.
that movie. Natalie Morris is Fran. She's in some TV show called Bump, and a movie I almost watched for 31 Days of Horror, Killer Sofa.
Oh, I've heard of that one. I kind of thought about that.
Ben Black is Phil McKillany, and he's in a couple of TV shows, Roman Empire and The Cul-de-sac. A lot of the members of this cast are in The Cul-de-sac. Zoe Robbins is Una, who winds up being one of the girls in the sorority who's actually working for the frat side.
I thought that was Helena.
Was it Helena? No, I thought it was Una, because Una was the one got given the comb at the beginning of the...
That was Helena.
Helena? I thought it was Una.
Don't ask me about fucking names.
Yeah.
She was the one that went missing, and she finds her in the house. They're going, Helena, where's Helena? And she's not there, and they find her in the
Helena
house.
was the one that got killed right away.
No, that's Una.
See, that's where I'm getting confused, because I was pretty sure Helena got confused. It was the one that got killed, and Una was the one in the house.
Yeah.
No.
It doesn't matter. Neither one's particularly memorable.
No. Anyway, Zoe's in Wheel of Time on Amazon.
Nice.
Ryan McIntyre is Brian Hurtley. This is pretty much his only film outside of one short film, so this is it. Mark Nelson is Gil. He was in I Survived a Zombie Apocalypse. Lucy Curry is Lindsay. Actually, Lindsay was the first kill, I think. Yes, she was the first kill. And she was in the Cowboy Bebop television series. Nice. I think she only did like one episode, though. Johnny McBride is the Black Mask in costume. He's primarily a stunt man. We definitely didn't mention him, but he did his stunts for episode 192 when we talked about Ghost in the Shell. Oh. And he was also in The Hobbit and Game of Thrones. Pretty much anything that went through New Zealand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like a Jason thing. He's put on the mask and now he's the monster.
Yeah. Yeah. He's done some acting, but boy, he's done a lot of stunt work.
Wow. Nice.
Yeah. So yeah, that's our cast for Black Christmas from 2019. Not a lot of connections there because they're pretty much all shiny and new.
Yes. Yeah. Most of them have like 10 or 12 credits.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're young. This is starting out. But yeah, Cul-de-sac, it makes me think that must be a New Zealand series.
Well, it must be. I think it's like a New Zealand soap from the sounds of it.
Yeah, almost everything that these people are in, I'm like, I don't know.
New Zealand Neighbors.
I was just about to mention Neighbors, yeah.
I didn't know what any of it was.
Yeah.
But maybe some of our New Zealand friends do. There's definitely some talent there, like, you're watching it and like, oh, that person's not bad. That person's not bad. This movie's bad.
This movie is not the sum of its parts because there are lots of great little things about the movie. It's just the way it came together and just how heavy-handed the message is undoes what little good things there are in it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I get that taking this classic slasher with a Me Too twist to it, like there's important messages in here.
I can get behind that.
Yeah,
100% can get behind that.
There's just too much.
Do it better.
Do it better. You sound like a director.
Do
it better. What do you mean better? Do it just not like you're doing it now. Better.
Because there are bits about it that it's wild because it does hit home with some of it where he talks about like a female writer wrote this and then Helena turns on them and does it. It's sort of like, yeah, it's a deeper problem in the fact that you're trying to get allies with men, but also women are doing some stupid shit.
Mm-hmm.
And then the one who's colluding with them dies because she thinks she's indispensable or has made herself indispensable. When you make yourself lesser than, you're dispensable.
The original film only has a body count of like 8 people.
Oh, yeah, they go hard in this one.
Yeah, I mean, it's a couple of cops and pretty much all the girls in the sorority.
Yeah, and a bunch of the frat boys.
I know. I mean, the remake, though. The remake is over 25 people.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's primarily, I think, 4 of the sorority girls, and then it's frat boys and the hooded figures.
Yeah,
so,
and that
like, the bad
cop-
guys really had a body count.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the cops.
Yeah, like that one cop, he's actually trying to check on something, which I like kind of the misdirect where you think they've got the 911 call out and he goes to a completely different sorority house.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I did enjoy that. I thought that was
I really liked. Like, that was some pretty slick misdirection, and I think that's partly because we didn't really know what was going on at that sorority until that moment that they were on the list.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but you didn't know because there was that misdirection where they decided not to go to the talent show and you just don't think anything of it.
Yeah. Well, I am thinking about it now because I think there's a better story over in the other sorority.
There is.
I wanted to be there.
Because you can see they're totally dominating in that sorority.
Because they have sisterhood.
Yeah.
They actually embody the sisterhood of a sorority versus what we got from Puke.
I think they were trying to get to do that. I mean, it does feel like that was the intention. They didn't get there.
No. And it's sad because clearly the director and the writer didn't understand what sisterhood is supposed to be like.
that song that they do in the Santa Claus outfits is about the only time where you feel like there's a connection between them.
They tried to do it through dialogue, which I enjoyed that because did you ever play that game? It's like name a body of water, name that, and it tells you who you are. But they did it with animals. Yeah. And I like the fact that she says ants because it's like, we're joined together, but that's kind of how they do it. And it doesn't really, you need to see the ants before that.
Exactly. You need to see that, see the ants, quote unquote, that you can't see. But yeah, and it's a lost moment in the film because we've already seen so much leading up to that that's kind of checked you out on whether or not you actually care about these characters anymore.
And then in the final scene, you see them all, like, it's the other sorority and the other girl, and you see they're a force. Yeah. They're all together doing it. One has like a Hanukkah candle, a menorah, a sled. Somebody's wielding a sled, which I freaking enjoyed.
Well, you look at the poster for this movie, and you've got the 4 girls, Imogen Poots, and they each have like one of them's got one of those pledge bats, right, where you're smacking them on the ass, and bow and arrow, etc. So it's making like these girls look like badasses,
or that they gather together, but they get decimated right away.
No, they're like 2 left by the end of it, and they can't get their shit together. They're constantly bickering at each other.
Yeah, I guess maybe that was, again, they're heavy-handed in one way, but they don't give the message the other way. Yeah. Whereas if we aren't really into the sisterhood, we're going to die. You know? Like, that should have been, they had that one side where they're really on it, but the other one where they were lacking sisterhood, that was their downfall.
Yeah. And it almost feels like they set that up in that opening scene, or not the opening scene, but the first scene after the credits, where first off, where she gives the other girl the Diva Cup, and then she goes down to the kitchen and she gives...
Oh, she gives her pad. That's not a Diva Cup.
Yeah, but you know, you don't share Diva Cups,
See,
obviously.
I know that.
Yeah. But the point I'm making is there's sort of that moment of sisterhood, and then when they're in the dining room and Riley gives the other girl the comb, she gets this nasty look from one of her sisters.
Yeah, because it's a lie.
Yeah.
Well, it is a lie, and the comb was given to her by that sister.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it's kind of establishes that they're maybe not as sisterly as they should be.
And the comb seems, I don't know, the comb was just overwrought. Where she's like, and all of a sudden I could sing. No.
But they
grow up.
Yeah, they put this importance on iconography without making it mean anything, and then they thrust it back at you at the end that it did mean something, but it doesn't. It doesn't. I mean, at least Imogen Poots solved one problem for the entire planet. She killed toxic masculinity, so we're all good now.
Yeah, right? I know, that's the other thing.
Because obviously all male bad behavior comes from
just
black
down
magic.
to that blood. Yeah. See, that was the other part of it that bugged me.
Black magic bullshit.
Black magic bullshit. That's the other part of it. It completely lets them off the hook. It was the black goo. It wasn't them.
It really, in its own way, undoes everything that they were trying to do with the film. Aside from the fact that once they were free from the thrall of the goo, they still behaved in a violent manner towards these women. They didn't have that moment of realization going, what the fuck did I just do?
Right.
They're like, oh, I'm going to keep fighting them.
I know.
That's what should have happened.
Yeah.
Like, break free and then the realization. I mean, maybe not all of them. Maybe
that's what I was about to say.
I mean,
it should have been a few.
At least a case of like what's going on, and like, oh my God, there's a whole bunch of crazy women attacking us. And at least I get the flight or flight response if you're going to keep that scene going. But I mean, write it that way, react that way, or at least have some sort of redemption arc for somebody who's been established. I mean, the only one they established was the date rape that happened off screen before the movie starts. That's the only chance you have at redeeming a character.
You should have had one or two new pledges who seem to be decent fellows and then become monsters.
Yeah. The fact that these frat boys have no thought about the fact that they have lost 3 or 4 of their pledges in one night to these girls, like, because there's 2 dead in puke, and then there's at least 2 or 3 more dead in the other sorority, right? So they've lost 5, and they still think that this is the best course of action, that these women are fighting back, and it's okay. We have drones. We can make sacrifices.
Yeah.
Okay. What's going to happen when their parents find out that their kids got killed? For a frat prank.
And this has been happening for years.
Yeah. That comes out, I think, again, it was not handled properly. It comes from a place of privilege where they do think they're untouchable because they have been.
Yeah, Carrie Elwes suggests that this has been going on for 200 years.
Yeah. Exactly. It's a privilege, I guess. And those kids' parents weren't rich enough.
Yeah, but again,
get the poor kids in.
I mean, that means nothing because they don't say it.
No,
there's none of that's actually in there.
Yeah, you should.
Which would have been great because it's another.
It would have been great, but it would have at least been something.
Yes.
Well, it would have explained away some of this, but I don't know. I thought it seemed to be this was like the big final strike they were going to do, and they hadn't really done this until the bust was moved. I, for some reason, thought it didn't happen until then.
Well, I mean, Imogen Poots' character, Riley, had spied in on the ceremony and seen the weeping statue with the goo coming out of it and then put it on the forehead. And for some reason, that all computes in her brain.
Yeah.
All I know is that it was the one sister who managed to get the bust removed, but it was recent, apparently.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
No, because, again, instead of telling us the story of how all these things happen,
or showing us
how these things happen, we get bickering between the girls in the sorority.
There's a lot of wasted time in this movie.
Yeah. You get long drawn out conversations about really nothing that just drive the story forward.
I don't need this side story of the Riley and a potential boyfriend.
No.
If it doesn't go anywhere.
It doesn't really.
It didn't go anywhere. He was there simply to be the token good guy. The token nice guy.
Oh, see, I thought he was there to also be the red herring of sorts because he shows up when she's getting messaged. I think that's what they were trying to do. They didn't do it well.
They didn't do it. I never, ever thought that at all. No, he was literally there to be the token nice guy.
Well, yeah, Trisha might have been onto something there. He could have been there to...
Well, she meets him at the library, and she's like, "Why are you here?" And she's getting a bunch of messages. And somebody's saying, "I see you."
They might have been trying to make him the Peter character from the original film. I think so. When he's trashing his equipment because he left it there, and he's all pissed off. I can see why you would think that. Again, they didn't do a great job with it in the original film. They did a worse job of it in the 2019. And there was a middle film where they could have learned from.
I know.
Which wasn't as good as Bob Clark's, but was 10 times better than this.
Yeah, I liked the big fight scene at the end, but I can't give a whole movie on one last scene.
No, I was
otherwise, Alien versus Predator would be amazing.
See, the funny thing is, when I watched Girls with Balls for 31 Days of Horror, it had a similar scene, and I loved it because it set that up. Everything was building towards that. This movie didn't build towards fuck all.
It should have built. When does the bus thing come out? Like halfway through? When she realizes it's part of it?
Well,
because they're like, what is this goo? And they're not really bleeding.
I mean, they do set up the statue fairly early, but connections aren't made until, about the 50%.
Yeah.
You know, with all that emphasis on DMs throughout the whole film, why weren't they using those DMs to build that sense of sisterhood with the other sorority, between each other?
Right?
Simple device that, pardon the pun, but that would have at least built the foundation for that final scene to happen on.
There were a couple little nods to the original film that I enjoyed. There are a couple here. At one point, there's a phone call that comes through and there's distortion that sounds like Billy's freaking out in the original film. It was a nice little nod there. And at one point, one of the girls uses a plastic bag to attack one of the
which
masked
I
guys,
love.
which
I thought that was so good.
Yeah, I thought that was a nice nod to the original film as well. That's about it.
Because when she brought out the bag, I'm like, it's like from the first film, but they moved it or they swapped it.
And I liked the way they brought the keys back from the opening scene. That first time that Riley is fighting with one of the masked frat boys, and she gets the keys and uses that same safety trick because it's a good example of things that you can do when you're being attacked. And I enjoyed that. But again, small moments in a pretty lackluster film otherwise.
You need more moments. Yeah, and they could have done the whole thing. Guess what? Everything's a weapon if you really want it to be.
Yeah. And they kind of show you that at the end there.
With the sled. Of all things, that really just stood out to me. She's slamming this guy with a sled.
Yeah, and a menorah.
But she's wielding it like she's flipping it around. Like she's used this before.
Yeah, and that's what's another thing that I kind of undoes that scene is it goes from being this sort of very serious message film to these really oddball comedic moments, like using a sled.
And they should have had more comedic moments.
Yeah, because there weren't any, really, until the end.
I mean, you had dad jokes partway through, which I did like the Santa Claus joke. It's dumb, but I like it. Whereas, why is he afraid to get stuck in the chimney? He's claustrophobic.
I don't know. By the time I got to the credits, my roommate was in the room. The credits start rolling. I'm like, oh, thank God. And I start fast forwarding a little bit. I hope there's no post credit. I'm like, oh fuck, there is.
Well, it's just the cat, isn't it?
It's just the cat.
It's just the cat.
Yeah, it's not important.
In both movies, I want more with the cat, but that could just be me.
I was fine with the cat. By the end of it, that's the only thing that I had anything to grab onto.
Well, they bring up that the cat has got goo on it, and then it goes nowhere.
Just to say that the cat was also working for the misogynistic.
I don't know.
Zombified black
or
magic
the cat was
bullshit.
Immune. The cat was immune. I don't know.
Cat was evil. Cat was an evil fuck.
Maybe like my next door neighbor cat.
Well, the original film, it had a budget of only $620,000.
Really?
Yeah. But went on to gross a little over $4 million.
Holy crap. That is a good return on investment.
Yeah. The remake here had a budget of $5 million and went on to have a worldwide gross of $18.5 million and change.
That's still not a bad return.
Not bad.
Not bad. I mean, this isn't, I think, what Jason Blum's used to. You have to kind of triple your budget before you're making money, so it barely got over that line and made a little bit of money. But considering it's 2019, the pandemic was starting to kick in. Not that I think it would have made much more anyway.
Well, I mean, considering the pandemic kicked in and it still made that honestly kind of good because we know so many movies that tanked because of it.
Yeah. If it opened any later, even in 3 months later, it would have probably tanked.
It wouldn't have gotten theatrical.
No, it probably wouldn't have. Yeah, probably wouldn't have. So yeah, that's not terrible. IMDb gives the original film a 7.1 out of 10.
As it should.
IMDb gives the 2019 a 3.5.
As it should.
Yeah.
And I couldn't find anything to replace it, so we're bringing it back. The Rotten Tomatoes game is back.
Oh, damn it.
Merry Christmas, Trish.
Merry Christmas, Trish. So
Remember, nothing I say matters.
right, early Rotten Tomatoes numbers don't freaking matter. We know this. I'm going to say that until I'm blue in the face. They don't matter. All right, so Rotten Tomatoes for the original film. What do you think the critics thought of the original film versus the 2019?
Knowing that horror tends to be tricky to get accurate critic reviews on, I'm going to go with about a 67.
Okay.
Considering Rotten Tomatoes came out a lot of time after it, I'm going to give it a 78.
Okay, and before I reveal that, what do you think about the 2019?
They're going to be mean to it. What do you think, Sam?
I'm going like 32. I want to be lower than that, but 32.
Oh, I'm going to do 28. I'm sorry. I'm going to price this right you.
That's fine.
You know, it's interesting because I was looking at some of the Metacritic scores on the 2019, and the lower scores came from critic outlets that I honestly had no idea who they were. And the higher scores were coming from some pretty major outlets, which was interesting to me. Critic score for the original film from 1974 is 72%.
Oh, overshot it.
And 40% for the 2019.
Damn it.
Still somewhat accurate. What do you think about
I still suck at this game.
What do you think of... I did this just mainly to... I missed the torture. So, what do you think of the audience score for both films, starting with the original?
Original? I think the audience score is going to be about 74. I think it's really close to...
Okay.
I'll do 78 again.
Okay.
I don't care.
And what do you think about the audience reaction to the 2019?
Now, this is a little tougher, but again, based on the IMDb score, I'm going to stick with my 32%.
I know some people will be terribly mean. I'm going to do 28.
I mean, not out of the realm here. 76% for the original film. You guys are just dancing around it. And same with Black Christmas 2019. It was 31%.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Well deserved.
Well deserved. I wanted to like it. Especially after that opening scene, I'm like, oh, this might not be as bad as I was preparing myself for. And then it got steadily worse.
Yeah, and the snow angel shot was beautiful.
And that death, it comes up, but doesn't really come back.
Because she's missing, right?
Yeah, I mean, they're kind of looking for her, but it comes later. You don't have the father that comes down like the original film. Yeah. You just have a phone call going, hey, Lindsay's not here yet. Yeah. And that sparks a little bit of interest. And this movie does something, I don't know if you've noticed it. As soon as you kind of get some time with one of the characters, then they kill them.
Yes.
It's like every time, it's like, okay, now Riley's finally talking to this person, and the next scene they're dead.
Yeah.
And it happens over and over and over again. It was like, holy crap, talk about telegraphing your characters to the point where it's like they actually didn't matter until the moment there was a little bit of communication. It was like, oh, by the way, we need to introduce this so you care that they die, but I didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, see, and the thing that the original
She's Jessica Fletcher from Murder, She Wrote. She just shows up and people die.
Yeah. The thing that the original did really well that most horror films don't do well is it didn't telegraph who the final girl was.
No.
You never really know who the final girl is until girls start dropping. It's like, okay, well, it's not her now. But you never know, right? But at the very onset of this film, you know who your final girl is, and you follow her around. So it diminishes it to an extent because you're like, well, I know who our heroine is. Unless you kill her in the final act, you've done nothing new.
And see, I think nowadays we're looking not so much for one girl to survive. We want more than one.
And they do that here.
But it should also be a mystery.
Yeah. I would have been actually pleasantly surprised if Riley had died and the other girls had survived.
Avenged her.
Yeah. I mean, I like that there's ambiguity at Bob Clark's ending, and he defended that to the nines because the studios wanted that gone.
Yeah.
They wanted to have something more definitive, and he stuck to his guns with that ending.
He was smart.
Haunting.
He set himself up for potential sequels. They never materialized, but he did set himself up for them.
Yeah, he wanted to do a sequel. His sequel was originally titled Halloween. John Carpenter did see this movie.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think it kind of
you can see the influence.
Doesn't it make more sense if it was Easter? Because that's what comes next.
Actually, Valentine's Day would have been actually the best one after this because of the nature of that character. Yeah. Valentine's Day actually would have been perfect.
Yeah.
But kids don't leave for Valentine's Day. They do leave for Easter.
Oh, yeah, but you could have a lot of fun with a Valentine's Day.
You can. So now we're remaking this again. We're doing a sequel.
Now we're doing sequels.
Now we're doing sequels.
Let's add more to our plate.
Well, Bob Clark actually, before he tragically passed away, he was killed in a car accident with his 22-year-old son, drunk driver. No license, no less. It was pretty tragic. But he was thinking about a sequel in the early 2000s prior to his death that brought back Elizabeth Hussey and John Saxon. And I think the character who played Peter, I mean, they were only ones left alive, I guess. And Elizabeth Hussey would have been like the headmistress of the sorority at this point in their life.
Yeah. I see it as when they did Halloween H2O, a Jamie Lee Curtis type of deal where she's haunted and she's drinking.
Yeah. I'll be honest, I'm glad Bob Clark didn't do it. I mean, I hate that he didn't do it because of the reason why he didn't do it. But at the same time, if they had done it, then we would have had an ending to the original film that we would have lost the ambiguous ending.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, honestly, the only thing I would have wanted out of that movie is a cop to look in the attic. Because they didn't do that. There's just bodies hanging out all over the attic.
What's that smell?
Nobody's smelled anything over years.
Well, it was winter. It must have been maybe cold up there.
But Billy's been in there for so long. Like, there's got to be urine in jars or something. Like, he should be stinking up the place just a little bit.
Yeah.
He's peeing and pooping somewhere, and it doesn't appear to be any of the bathrooms.
Yeah, he's got a little baggie or a little poop pile somewhere.
See, that's the other plot hole. Why did nobody smell Billy?
Yeah, nobody saw that brown stain down the window.
They think the cats just lay in heaters all over the house.
All right, well, I think that's a good time to end Black Christmas. Again. I hope we don't have to do this for a third time. Stop remaking it.
Please.
You're only continuously making it worse. It really can't get that much worse now.
It's just...
The Asylum needs a crack at it.
Oh, Jay, don't give them ideas.
No. They say it's a remake, but it just didn't have enough of it, I feel, to be a remake.
Yeah, it doesn't have a whole lot in common this go round.
They just used the name, and that upsets me.
Well, and the basic premise of
the basic premise is there.
Yeah.
But it turned into something a little more typical masked killer slasher, pulling, as you mentioned, the multiple killer scream thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, I mean, we had like evil fraternity movies in the past.
Yeah.
So, like, why weren't you using some of that to inform this? I mean, then they were far superior, and there was no black magic bullshit.
Yeah, black magic bullshit. That's the t-shirt.
That's the t-shirt.
Well, yeah. And I mean, like, honestly, here's the deal. That's just life. You can have these people existing in life because they will.
Exactly.
No need for black magic. Black magic bullshit.
Well, if you want the black magic bullshit t-shirt, go on over to our TeePublic Store. And one way you can do that is just visit our website,
invasionoftheremake.wixsite.com/podcast.
And over there's a button that says store. That'll take you to our TeePublic Store. We got t-shirts, mugs, posters, PPE masks, totes, notebooks, and a whole lot more. Get your hoodies now. Mm-hmm. It's wintertime. And get yourself something nice. It's, the cutoff for Christmas is probably come and gone, but it's never too late for a birthday or something, or just get it for yourself or a late Christmas gift.
Yeah. A happy New Year's gift. A happy you survived 2023 gift.
Yeah, we all deserve one of those.
Fuck it. I didn't get what I want for a Christmas gift.
Yeah, so I want something from Invasion of the Remake.
Yep.
That's right. And when you buy something from the store, that goes right back into the production of the show. Because, I mean, our slice from TeePublic is really tiny. So that goes straight into hosting fees and whatnot and equipment uptake. And to be honest, though, we don't even make enough for the hosting fees. So the more you buy, the less destitute we are.
Please, sir.
We're holding everything together with duct tape, okay?
Yeah, since this is a Christmas thing, think, Bob Cratchit. Poor Sam is Tiny Tim. Little bit decrepit. We need to feed him.
Somehow, I feel like I should be offended, but I'm not.
No. It's the fact that we care about you. We need to keep Sam in good health to keep him with us.
So join our telethon in supporting Sam.
You can sponsor a podcaster like this on just the price of a cup of coffee a day.
So go to our TeePublic now to save a Sam in your life.
And there's another t-shirt.
Save a Sam in your life. There's so many Sams out there that need your help.
But specifically ours.
Our Sam.
Oh, when did I become a poster child?
You can just see it. This is Sam. Sam podcasts for no money at all. Every week he travels upstairs millions of millimeters to get to his podcasting environment.
Another way you can help keep this show strong and vital and Sam strong by supporting our social media at Invasion Remake on Twitter /X, Invasion of the Remake on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Threads. And somebody send us an invite to Blue Sky. We'll go.
Oh, what's Blue Sky?
You'll find out when we're there.
Okay.
But until then, we're not. And of course, you can email us your suggestions, your corrections, and your comments, and of course, your fan challenges for next year to invasionoftheremake@gmail.com. Now, we don't have too much left now. I think we'll do something special next week, and then we're going to have a couple weeks off for Christmas. Cult Movie Trailer Go-Go is returning with Cult Movie Trailer Go-Go 6, A New Beginning. And since like a year ago, you guys spoiled the fact that I was ending it, and then it didn't end. And then we'll be back for season 10 right after that. 10 seasons of Invasion of the Remake.
Wow.
Yep.
It's longer than most marriages.
It's longer than all my relationships.
Yeah, mine too.
A couple of them put together. All right. Well, we'll be back with something special for you next week. Until then, I've been Jason.
I'm always Sam.
And I continue to be Trish.
And we are out of here.
Hello,
Who is this?
it's Jess.
Miss Bradford, this is Sergeant Nash. Are you the only one in the house?
No. Phil and Barbara upstairs asleep. Why?
All right. Now, I want you to do exactly what I tell you without asking any questions, okay? No questions. Now, just put the phone back on the hook, walk to the front door, and leave the house.
What's wrong?
Please, Miss Bradford, please just do as I tell you.
Okay. I'll get Phil and Barbara.
No, don't do that, Jess. Jess, the caller is in the house. The calls are coming from the house. Jess! Jess, get up! And don't go up there. Don't go upstairs, Jess. Miss Bradford! Miss Bradford! Miss Bradford? Miss Bradford?